Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Tonight I want to walk you through a dramatic and chilling development in the ongoing war between Ukraine and Russia, how Ukraine's growing drone capability is turning Moscow into a firestorm, and how those attacks may be revealing the cracks in Russia's air defenses. This is not just a story about explosions and headlines. It's about evolving warfare, strategy, symbolism, and how technology is shifting the balance. Over the past months, Ukraine has ramped up its use of drones not just for reconnaissance or tactical hits along the front lines, but for deep strikes, for penetrating Moscow's airspace itself. In one of the most intense assaults to date, waves of Ukrainian drones crossed deep into Russia and targeted areas inside or around Moscow, setting off multiple explosions, fires, and a general sense that no place is entirely safe. The Russians claim they intercepted hundreds of drones, but footage and reports show damage to infrastructure, residential buildings, and energy targets. The magnitude of these attacks is staggering. Russia says at least 143 drones were shot down in one recent barrage, with some reaching the Moscow region before being intercepted. ABC News, in another massive strike, Russia claimed to have downed 343 Ukrainian drones across several regions, including over Moscow. ABC News in March 2025, one such attack killed at least 2 workers in Moscow, injured others including children, and caused temporary closure of airports. Reuters, what makes these strikes especially striking is that they suggest a serious weakening or blind spot in Russia's air defense network. Analysts have begun describing these events as a collapse, or at least severe strain, on the previously more assured Russian air defenses. The fact that Ukraine can launch these deep strikes, force intercepts, and still cause damage so close to the Russian heartland signals something important. The deterrent capability of defending a capital is no longer guaranteed. Let's dive deeper into how Ukraine achieves this, what it tells us about both sides, and what it might mean going forward. First, how are the drones getting through? Ukraine is using a mix of tactics. Some drones are smuggled or transported over long distances and launched from forward positions within Russia itself, using truck-based deployment systems that aim to evade detection until the last moment. They employ low, flying trajectories, stealth or radar, evading techniques, or surprise mass swarm tactics that force defenders to handle trade-offs. If you try to intercept everything, you stretch defenses too thin. Repeated waves, robotic coordination, and disruption of air defenses help too. One operation worth highlighting is the so-called Operation Spiderweb, conducted by Ukraine's SBU security service. In June 2025, drones were transported covertly inside Russia, hidden in trucks, then launched to strike 5 Russian air bases deep inland, hitting strategic bombers and aircraft. Wikipedia, this operation demonstrated not only reach but precision, and sent a psychological shockwave through Russia's defense establishment. Some reports suggest that this degraded nearly 1/3 of Russia's strategic bomber capability. On the Ukrainian side, drone technology is advancing fast. The FB-1, for instance, is a long-range one-way attack drone developed by Ukraine capable of striking high-value targets deep across Russia. There are also jet-powered designs like the UJ-25 Skyline, which aim for higher speed and reduced vulnerability. These platforms reflect a shift. Drones are no longer just tools for harassment or surveillance. They're weapons of strategic impact. So, what does this tell us about Russia's defenses? For decades, Moscow assumed its airspace could be defended by layered long and medium range systems, radars, interceptors, and redundancy. But these Ukrainian drone assaults suggest serious weaknesses in detection, response coordination, or resource allocation. If hundreds of drones can get close to the capital, cause fires, and force damage before interception, that shows gaps in the last-mile defenses. Russia's own claims of interception must be viewed with caution. They likely overstate success for morale and propaganda. But even accepting their numbers, the fact that so many drones are launched and penetrate adds to the stress on their systems. The cost and complexity of responding to swarms, the need to protect civilian areas, and the psychological burden all matter. Another aspect to consider is the choice of targets and effects. The attacks are not purely symbolic. They often aim at energy infrastructure, refineries, ammunition depots, or transport hubs. Russian media reported significant damage to gasoline production after repeated Ukrainian drone assaults on refineries, causing a drop in capacity and shortages. The Washington Post energy resilience is now a battlefield, and these strikes inside Russia may further strain the Kremlin's domestic and military logistics. The psychological impact is enormous too. To see smoke, sirens, explosions in the capital sends a message that the war is not just at the front lines. It undermines morale, raises doubts about safety, and challenges narratives of invulnerability. That matters politically as much as militarily. Now, what are the risks and limitations? Ukraine still must manage supply, attrition, electronic warfare, and Russia's countermeasures. As Russia adapts, they may build more resilient defenses, girded by more sophisticated radar, jamming, or interceptor systems. They may also spread out critical infrastructure, harden buildings, or impose stricter air defense zones. Ukraine also risks escalation and possibly provoking stronger retaliation. Furthermore, the attacks raise ethical and legal questions. Russia will likely present them as terror or civilian targeting. Ukraine must maintain legitimacy by distinguishing between military and civilian targets, ensuring proportionality and avoiding civilian harm. The blurred boundary of urban conflict complicates that. Looking to the future, we may see drones and unmanned systems take even more central roles in warfare. The classic model of high-flying jets backed by surfaced, where systems is being challenged by swarms of cheap unmanned systems that force defenders to rethink mass, distribution, agility, and resilience. States that neglect these trends risk being outpaced. For Russia, the message is clear. You can't rely on old hierarchies of air defense and strategic depth alone. Any vulnerability can be exploited. Deploying redundant systems, decentralizing, investing in electronic warfare, autonomous defenses, and improving intelligence may become urgent. In conclusion, Ukraine's drone assaults on Moscow are more than spectacular headlines, they're turning points. They reveal the changing face of war, expose vulnerability in what was once considered untouchable territory, and force Russia to confront the fragility of its defenses. Whether this trend continues or is blunted by countermeasures remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: the war in the skies has entered a new, dangerous chapter.